Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells. We each have more than 15 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. But before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us when we go live every 2 p.m. every Thursday. Jeff, how you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good, David. Have you recovered from the doubleheader softball you played the other night?
No. In no way, no. I need to just permanently go from ice baths to saunas in the event that I want to maintain a somewhat active lifestyle going forward. It's so bad. It's so bad. I was sore the other day from hanging a curtain.
You need some proactive maintenance procedures.
I do. I need a dedicated, I guess that's just what you say about a chiropractor. That would be my preventative maintenance, right?
Yeah.
And then the doctor's more the predictive. Your normal family physician. I need to see both.
Or if there's a a night nurse or something that can monitor you while you're sleeping, and then when your arm is here for a while, they just kind of come over and just put it back down.
Yeah, sir, you are in an abnormal position. I'm going to help you out.
You are going to get frozen shoulder from this.
Yes.
You're not going to like it.
I would pay for that. Just even if I could have some sort of webcam on me, and then they just call middle of the night, break in via the Alexa, and just say hey, get up and move.
Yeah, move. You've been on that hip for too long.
And how are the aches and pains today?
Fine. I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks.
Very good. Very good. Well, before we jump into our first story this week, we have a word from our new sponsor, Better Engineering. Looking for the ultimate industrial washing system for your facility? Better Engineering delivers state-of-the-art industrial part washers tailored for manufacturing, food, and pharmaceutical processing. We integrate automation and robotics to eliminate hand washing, increasing throughput and water savings while using eco-friendly chemistry. Whether you need custom or stock cleaning systems, we've got you covered. Built to last, American quality stainless steel systems. Better Engineering. Engineering cleaning solutions for a better tomorrow. Visit betterengineering.com to revolutionize your cleaning process today. All right. Our first story this week.
That echoed.
It did. I don't know that I've echoed in the studio before. There's so much sound dampening in here. It's good that it can happen. All right. Our first story this week. The U.S. Navy's warship production is in its worst state in 25 years. The U.S. Navy is facing new global threats every day, but the shipbuilding industry is running into production and maintenance challenges that have created backlogs. The U.S. is now behind China in the number of ships in its fleet, and the gap is widening. According to the AP, the problems stem from labor issues, shifting defense priorities, and last-minute design changes and cost overruns. Eric Labs from the Congressional Budget Office says Navy shipbuilding is in, quote, a terrible state, the worst in a quarter century. For example, Marinette Marine is under contract to build 6 guided missile warships, and it could even build 4 more. The problem is that the company only has enough workers to produce 1 frigate a year. The biggest challenge is hiring and retaining workers as industry veterans are retiring. Building new ships is challenging work. Shipyards have started training academies and are working with tech schools to train the new workforce. Sub-builders and the Navy even formed an alliance to promote manufacturing careers. And shipyards are offering perks to retrain workers once they're hired. Now, Jeff, stop me if this problem sounds familiar, but one worker says that people look elsewhere because shipbuilding is believed to be a, quote, crappy work environment and it's unsafe.
Yeah, definitely ringing familiar there as far as comparing shipbuilding, and obviously it's part of manufacturing in the industrial sector, but we do hear that a lot with the skills gap and trying to fill all these unfilled positions right now in manufacturing. I think there's some other additional dynamics that go beyond just finding these workers right now. First of all, when you do look at the workforce, they talked to the one welder there at Marionette Marine, and he felt very proud to almost be serving his country and being a part of that. I think when you get into DoD contract manufacturing, there's going to be others who feel the exact opposite. So I do think you have a little bit of a challenge there in terms of attracting folks to some of these jobs, even though they can be very well paid and have a pretty dramatic impact in terms of the final product. So I think that's part of it. I also, in looking at this, it reminded me a lot of some of the issues we had with manufacturing coming out of the recession, like in 2007, 2008, especially when you looked at job shops and contract manufacturers who were really focused almost exclusively on the automotive sector. Mm-hmm. When automotive dipped, they were struggling, okay, and they needed to diversify what they were doing. Well, in a lot of cases, especially like Marionette Marine here, if you put all your eggs in that DoD basket, that can be very, very daunting as things shift from administration to administration. You've got all these changes going on as well. If the DoD decides to put money elsewhere, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Now, I know right now we're in that case where that's not the problem in terms of getting enough stuff to build, but I ran across an interesting article here from the U.S. Naval Institute, and last fall they talked to the former Deputy Defense Secretary David Norquist, and he laid out a couple of stats that I thought were really interesting, just looking at the volatility of even working with these defense contracts. He said that in 1985, over 3 million people were working in the defense industry. That number's down to about 1.1 million. Mm-hmm. Since 1985, more than 17,000 companies have basically dissolved, been acquired, or gone away. So you've got a shrinking number of manufacturers that are tied to these projects. So if you're a big guy like Lockheed or BAE or Hunters, Ingalls, those big shipbuilders, yeah, you've got lots of flexibility here, and you can sort of ride that tide as far as orders coming in, things slowing down, changes, and you can absorb that. If you're a smaller place like Marionette Marina here in Wisconsin, that's pretty tough to manage and pretty difficult to do. So what are you going to do? You're going to err on the side of caution in terms of workforce. And if you need to make cuts, you're not going to have any extra resources available to you to talk. We looked at some of these incentives that they're putting out there to keep people. That's just not there for the smaller manufacturers. So there's so much volatility because you're so tied into essentially one customer, the U.S. government, that I think it's been very difficult for a lot of these manufacturers to keep pace and adjust with differences throughout the administrations. The other thing that we have going on right now is we're not fighting a war, but we're budgeting like we are. Mm-hmm. But the things that we're budgeting for are bullets, essentially. Mm-hmm. What we're doing for Ukraine and all the support we've given there and other parts of the world, we have all these big budgets to support these other initiatives, but it's not necessarily for our own things. But at the same time, we need to be ready and prepared for stuff going on, potentially China, potentially Russia. A lot of water in between us and them. So it puts obviously a premium on these types of projects, these types of needs with shipbuilding. So there's a lot of just contrasting needs right now and a lot of different factors coming at different places that have led to this big issue. I think one of the things, too, is just the way budgeting is done from a defense perspective. And one of the arguments out there is that we should be looking at our GDP and putting out a percentage of our defense spending based on that, not necessarily looking at how do we increase year over year or what's going on from a military perspective, but allowing us to sort of directly proportion what we have coming in to what we're spending on defense to preserve all of that. In times of war, we've been as high as 8 to 10% of our GDP going towards military spending. That's dropped down to about 3%. The sweet spot seems to be more like around 5%. Mm-hmm. So if we started doing some of those sort of forecasting and projections, potentially we could try to get around some of these types of issues.
I mean, I understand when you say that they need to be a little bit more careful when it comes to putting all their eggs in one basket. But isn't it, I mean, a lot of this has to be on the Navy and the DOD too, right? Because they choose a partner like Marionette Marine because they like the specific frigate that's been used in other navies, and they're only going to change 15% of the design. And then when all is said and done, the Navy spec changes 85% of it. And you're just like, okay, well, that's going to take a little bit more time.
I'm not putting any blame on any of these manufacturers. I'm just saying this reinforces how difficult of an environment they are operating in, especially if they are a smaller operation. If you're the big guys like Lockheed and BAE and Hunt and Ingalls, you can sort of weather this a little bit, but all these smaller guys are going away, and that's what's making it so much more difficult then fulfill some of these orders and keep up with demand.
Is there anything more American when it comes to spending than picking the low-cost alternative and then making so many changes that it becomes ungodly expensive?
I mean, there's probably a Navy joke in here someplace, but I'll refrain from that.
That's all right. We'll give you a minute to think of it. Anna, when it comes to employee training and retention, that's something we talk about all the time, and it seems like they're trying to be proactive, right? I mean, maybe they're being a little bit reactive because all of a sudden they kind of found themselves caught in the same pinch that manufacturing did. But it seems like they're really trying when it comes to bonuses, the academies, internal programs. But it's wild that it's still not meeting their needs.
Yeah, and I don't know what is enough here. I mean, I think you raise a good point when you say that the Navy can't continue to go down a path of suggesting that they're going to use a 85% complete design and then make 15% changes and then flip that on its head when production has already started. I mean, that's like got to be a very frustrating work environment to be in if you're that manufacturer, right?
Well, it's also like in terms of what you need from your employee, if you're only making 15% changes, that might be drastically different than like wholesale changes to the design. That might take a greater skill set from your workers.
For sure. And, you know, I think that's one of many challenges that are kind of facing this operation. You know, you look at Marinette, Wisconsin, it's a small town. It's up by the UP. It's pretty remote. You know, if you consider you can't really recruit from a major metropolitan area up there, it's kind of hard for that town to bring people in, I think. Their population has been in decline for decades. The bonuses are great. The programs are great. But you also kind of have to wonder what else can be done here and if it can be done. And I don't want to be like a defeatist as it pertains to this issue, but like, you know, when you're trying to recruit young talent, and we've learned more and more that this young talent is placing priority on things that are quality of life issues that are outside of just pay. You know, it's this beautiful little town. It's close to nothing. If you don't know anybody there, maybe that's a hard sell for you to go, you know, maybe you can find a different job in manufacturing somewhere else that pays the same and it's not an hour and a half away from your family or 45 minutes to the nearest Target. I mean, like, it's not a place that's really well connected to, you know, there's no interstate highway that goes through that town. It's just like, it's kind of up in the middle of nowhere. And nothing against Marinette. It's a beautiful city. But, you know, you could see that being a limitation when it comes to recruiting. I think the other thing that needs to be said, too, is that Marinette Marine, you know, they only have enough workers right now to build one frigate a year, as you said. But Mark Vandroff, their CEO, said in an April interview that they literally can't build more than two because they run out of space. So he said that if the Navy sometime decides that they want them to build more than, right now it's evening out to about like, the target is like 1.5 per year. But he said if the Navy decides they want 3 or 4 more of these, that they're going to need to find somebody else to do it. Like Marinette Marine has already said, like, we can't do it.
Capacity,
Right. So I feel like if the Navy were trying to find another supplier, where is this company and why are we not hearing about it? And maybe that's another problem with this program overall, is the fact that if the Navy's warship production is in the worst state it's ever been, where are your other manufacturers? Because this company has already said, we can't keep up if you want more than what we're providing you at this time. And I think that's another issue I think that needs to be addressed. It's a little bit larger in scope. So you know, many things going on here. Jeff, you know, brought up some great points there as well about the budgeting and the inconsistencies that are happening there. I think there's a lot to work out, and I don't know what the solution is. I don't think it's an easy solution, and I think they've acknowledged that too.
Do you think part of it is that beyond all the other incentives that you can offer as a company, just like base level, like, hey, we're going to train you as a welder. You are going to be able to make a lot of money with us. And if you're not happy with us, that's still a skill that you're going to earn a lot of money with.
Yeah.
If you decide to go somewhere else, maybe that's the pitch.
Maybe that's the pitch. I know that, like, you know, young people, in that like, for example, go to school in very rural areas, those states have a really hard time holding on to those people because they're young, they like to socialize, they want to meet people, they maybe want to meet a spouse or something.
Yeah.
Like it is a harder sell to get people in a secluded, remote area to like set up shop and like, you know, even if it is a great opportunity and even if it's great training and they can take it elsewhere, I just think it's a different pitch, you know, it's a different person.
Well, I also think, too, when you're looking at this much volatility and change, if you're looking at a project that's going to have an 85% change rate, I mean, that's not a real attractive project to bring in.
It's not.
Either.
It's not.
And when you look at having to dedicate additional resources just to getting the people on board to build it or the materials or the space, whatever, and you know that can change every 4 years potentially with a change in administrations, there's not a lot of incentive for these manufacturers to stick their neck out a little bit and depend on these types of contracts and make the huge capital investments they'd need.
There is some incentive, right? Because the Navy, well, I mean, yeah, okay. So the Navy is trying to help with turnover. You know, they've offered $100 million in Navy funding to Marinette Marine to help with retention bonuses. The shipyard has 2,000 workers. We'll give bonuses up to $10,000 to keep workers. So I think that the Navy is trying to do some things. They realize there's a problem and they're trying to help, rather than just being like, man, that's your problem. You had mentioned the welder. There were a couple that I wanted to call out in particular. It was Lucas Andreini, who's a welder at Fincantieri Marinette Marine in Marinette, Wisconsin. He used to be a production line welder that made components on garbage trucks, but he says, you know, his health benefits are better. He'll get a pension for the first time in his life, and he can acquire skills that are more advanced than he received during his initial training. And like you said, Jeff, he also does feel like he's serving his country. And I think that has to be a part of the narrative with any job. You know, hey, without me, we don't have this. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've mentioned that before. The other is, you know, we always talk about job security. They also interviewed Aloni Lake, who's a welder and a 32-year-old single mom. She says that stuff like a backlog, that is essentially a 6 to 10 year backlog, if they're doing one a year, kind of guarantees stability. She also talks about the satisfaction of working with her hands to create tangible results. And I think that we hear that often. I know that it's a hard sell, but like, you know, when you create something with your hands, there is somewhat more of a
sense of ownership.
More sense of ownership. Yeah. Feel like you got more accomplished, right? Like, mm-hmm. I mean, it's not something as trivial as, you know, like posting something to a website that might not exist tomorrow.
That's true.
For example. But we also reached out to Josiah, who had a comment on the story. I think he works up in that area. He says, I agree. I think it all stems back to when we were in high school and the stigma of if you don't go to college, you won't amount to anything. Trades were put on the back burner, and now that these older people are retiring, there aren't very many younger people that can take over. And it's just, I mean, thank you very much for the response, Josiah. But man, we've heard that almost to a T so many other places in manufacturing. All right, our next most popular story. Stellantis warns union of 2,000 or more potential job cuts at auto plant outside Detroit. Stellantis is shifting production of the new tradesman. The company this week warned that it could lay off 2,450 of the 3,700 union workers at the Stellantis Warren truck plant outside of Detroit. The plant makes an older version of the Ram 1500 pickup called the Tradesman, which is mostly sold to commercial businesses. The company last came out with the new version back in 2018, and the latest will come out during the 2025 model year. The job cuts will likely be lower because of early retirement offers that are currently underway, as well as seniority bumping rights. Stellantis is moving production to the Sterling Heights assembly plant in Sterling Heights, Michigan. The Jeep Wagoneer SUV is still going to be built in Warren, so the company's only laying off one shift. But these layoffs could begin as soon as October 8th. Jeff, Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares recently said that he will stop the bleeding and address the company's problems swiftly. I mean, is this the first of many similar announcements?
I don't know. They've got to do something because they have a pretty basic problem. They're not selling enough vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, it just kind of comes down to that. Especially, you look at Ram trucks. At one point, they were pushing for number 2 right behind Ford. Over the last 5 years, they're selling you like 150,000 fewer Ram trucks a year. And this year, they may not even make it to 500,000. So they've got a sales issue there. I don't know if it's a brand thing. I don't know if it's because the other vehicle types, when you look at obviously the F-150, the Silverado, the things that GMC is doing, if that's just surpassing them from a quality perspective. But Ram's got a problem here from a sales perspective. On the other hand, the Wagoneer is doing quite well. It's bounced back since they reintroduced it, and it is performing. So he's going with the winner here.
Yeah.
And if you're Stellantis, it's tough to find a winner in your lineup here because they don't have a lot of leading vehicle types that they can really turn to. Jeep has been somewhat of an anchor, but Jeep is sort of its own category. So when you look at the SUVs, when you look at pickup trucks, which are the main sellers right now in the U.S. market anyway, they need something to grab onto here. And with making these types of cuts, these types of job cuts, which are going to happen, which is weird too, when you look at these factories being like 20 minutes apart.
10
I mean,
smart,
it is that really kind of blew me away when I saw how close they were. That's just got to create some interesting work environments too. I mean, these folks aren't just that close geographically. It's got to create some problems too. So there's that, and I think there's also the simple fact that if I'm down in Belvedere right now, I've got to be getting a little nervous. I know they've got all this money promised to them. That plant is supposed to open up later. Is it this year or early next? With the parts distribution and the EV vehicles and all that stuff. That plant was shut down last year or put on pause. You have to wonder now if they're cutting from trucks, which is a big growth area, a big area of demand right now. What is that going to mean? Are they going to get all 5,000 of those jobs that they were promised? Is everything going to reopen down there? And what's next for Stellantis? Because I don't think this is the first type of this announcement we're going to hear about. We've talked about everything they want to do from an electric vehicle perspective. Is it sort of putting together a war chest to really dive into that in other markets potentially, which is where I think he is more focused when you look at some of their other products or some of their other brands. I think this is the first of many these types of announcements that we're going to be hearing from Stellantis.
I mean, you're right about that Wagoneer. That thing is everywhere right now, and it is a pretty penny when it comes to how much it costs. And one thing that stood out to me was that they said the job losses might not be that bad because of bumping rights. But with bumping rights, still, one worker's losing a job, right? If you have bumping rights, that just means that you don't lose it. The guy below you does.
Yeah,
right?
I think they were talking more about lumping in some voluntary retirements that would kind of soften the blow a little bit there.
Okay.
Less about the bumping rights, although that is an option for some folks that have been top tier union members.
Yeah, just we're not gonna. No. We're not gonna. They're not all gonna be layoffs here because they're gonna bump people in Sterling.
That guy doesn't count.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's what they meant, but that was the way I took it anyway. So I looked up the WARN notice. The affected job titles that are laid out in there are by and large manufacturing workers, as I think was easy to assume based on the circumstances here. Nearly 2,000 production operations people, 200 plus listed as skilled trades, about 100 team leaders, and even a few dozen apprentices, which is pretty man, You think about how hard people are working to nurture talent and to cut people from your apprenticeship program.
That's surprising.
Seems crazy, yeah. The one thing you can hope, and you mentioned the proximity to the other plant, where they are at least, Warren is a manufacturing town, but so is every town around them, right? This is the automotive hotspot of Michigan. You've got Sterling Heights, you've got, Pontiac, Troy, Detroit, everything right there. So you kind of hope that the general need for automotive talent will make it a little bit easier for some of these folks who not only have the union benefits of they have a pretty long run on unemployment, on transition assistance, that they have I think 2 years on some of that.
I saw a full year, 52 weeks.
I know it's 2 years. If you're in a certain tier within the union, it's 2 years of health benefits. Plus you got the year of
the transition services.
And then severance.
So plus unemployment.
Plus Michigan unemployment. So, it's not always the case, I think, that you have such a supportive local economy and also the transition benefits.
Yeah.
So for these workers, I hope that means that that they're able to kind of pivot somewhere else. It's it's not always the case. Sometimes it's like you have when whatever company you work for picks the lowest cost provider region, and you have the skill set kind of in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to just bump over to somewhere else. Anyway, so I'm thinking positively, at least for the future of these workers. The other thing I thought that was interesting about this story is the Ram tradesmen. So the differentiation between the Ram Classic, which is this pickup that you alluded to from 2018, now it's being redesigned for 2025. So the redesign is basically like it's being remade, right?
Okay.
So they're phasing out this classic tradesman. It seemed to me that Ram is doing a little bit damage to the consumer as well, not just killing jobs, but also like killing what looks like a more affordable option for pickup. So I read a report in Motor Trend, I think, looking at this. They described it as one of the more like bare bones utility type vehicles that you would see appeal from like fleets or work applications, because you don't need all those bells and whistles and creature comforts. And it was a half-ton V8. So you had the power, you had the, capacity. So it was a good price. Dodge has been slowly creeping the price up. Now the new tradesman is going to start at like $42,000 base, but with an inline six. So you lose the V8. Compare this to the Tradesman Classic price of 2023 of $34,000 starting.
Oh, that's significant.
So I don't know. I feel like this narrative that vehicles are becoming more affordable is true, but not significantly so. Like I read this report recently that Cox Automotive put out. They said the new vehicle average transaction price in May was lower year over year by 0.9%, approximately $442. So when people say like, oh, the automotive market's breaking, it's getting better. It's not going up, but it's still like.
It just stopped going up so dramatically.
Well, I think it depends on what you're looking for.
Right. Oh, it depends on what you're looking for, but like, price wise, average vehicle transaction price. I know there's more inventory. That is helpful. Maybe you have a little bit more wiggle room when you have that conversation. But people aren't getting screaming deals by any means. And I think with trucks carrying the load, when it comes to higher and higher prices, I think that you can kind of get away with padding these a little bit, and shave off your lower margin stuff a bit easier because the market that surrounds them is just going up and up and up. So for Stellantis to be like, you know what, let's make this a I don't know. It's like making it a bigger, better version, but it's not. It's actually a worse version.
Yeah.
but it's more expensive now. Maybe they think this is the time that they can kind of sneak that in.
Well, they can still they can bring it up like $8,000 per. Know that they're probably relatively still on the low end of the market. Know that they're going to have constant demand from these commercial businesses. I don't know. Some of that to me seems like simple math, right? Because they're not necessarily dealing with the consumer. They know that there is going to be X amount of demand. They probably know historically how many they're buying per year, and just like, hey, we're still winning on price.
Got to be careful there, though, because if these are fleet purchases,
Yeah.
that is not what they're going to sell them per vehicle at.
Yeah.
That sticker price kind of goes out the window. And remember, this is how automotive companies got into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Selling to rental car fleets, selling to these other places at a price that was not beneficial to them. So hopefully they're not relying too heavily on that, I guess.
Well, UAW President Shawn Fain did have something to say about it, if you can believe it. Yeah.
I'd hope so.
Quote, the American taxpayer has invested in Stellantis. Workers have invested in Stellantis. Consumers have invested in Stellantis. It's time for Stellantis to invest in us. I feel like Shawn Fain had a real strong moment 6 months to a year ago. But right now, when it comes to stories like this, I mean, really, it seems like the union's hands are tied, right? Like, other than coming out with a little bit of bluster and, hey, we're going to make things right. Is there anything they can do?
Right now, no. And I just get the feeling that from Tavares that he really wants to sort of take the European model for vehicle and the consumer relationship and try to bring that to us. I think he gets very frustrated with these bigger vehicles, the Jeeps, the Dodges, of the Rams of the world, because when he looks at the things that he's doing with Fiat and the success that he's had there, Fiat Pugo and some of those other European markets or those types of vehicles, they've been very, very successful. So you get that going over here in one direction. You've got all this stuff going on in the U.S. that's completely the polar opposite of it. I think from a corporate perspective, that's got to be very frustrating.
Yeah, completely different markets.
Yeah.
Our next most popular story. Jaguar to take a year off from selling vehicles. The Jaguar brand has been around since 1935, nearly 100 years. But is this the beginning of the end for the luxury vehicles? In an interview with Autocar, managing director Rodden Glover revealed an odd strategic choice. The Jaguar is being put down for a while. The company previously announced plans to phase out ICE vehicles and go fully electric. Gas cars will be discontinued in the UK in 2025, but the company's EVs won't be ready in time. Jaguar likely won't have its new EVs until 2026. So the brand will go almost a year without new cars in dealer showrooms. According to Glover, at least in the UK, quote, there will be a period where you will not be able to buy a Jaguar. Dealers will instead have to focus on pre-owned inventory and after-sales service revenue. It's, quote, unclear if we'll see any impact in the U.S. market, as looser regulations around fuel efficiency might mean that Jaguar can continue to sell its gas vehicles right up until the transition. So, no gap. Jaguar has teased an electric Grand Tourer that will be fully unveiled in December. Still, that one's not going to be available until 2026. Anna, Jaguar says it will be the most powerful car it's ever sold, but will buyers be willing to wait?
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation for Jaguar, and I feel like they've talked about it casually and maybe try to downplay the impact of this very strange thing that they're doing. It's hard for me to believe that this is their strategy. Like, you can't tell me that this was by design, that they're doing it this way.
Like when they mapped it out, they're like, and then there'll be the gap year.
Yeah, and then we'll just take a sabbatical for a year, and we'll just I don't know, maybe extra service.
Yeah.
Maybe some extra.
Yeah, a little pre-owned inventory.
Yeah, see what happens. No, it definitely seems like the unfortunate byproduct of a development timeline that just didn't quite line up in the end. What would it mean for Jaguar to rely on sales, after sales service for an entire year? Well, in 2023, JLR sold about 431,000 vehicles, and of those, about 84,000 were Jaguar brands, so about 19% of its group sales. This is globally, all right? And so the crux of this is on basically the UK and maybe parts of the European market,
right,
where they are not going to continue to sell those ICE models. I know that the report says it's unclear what happens here. We know what happens here. They continue to sell that gas car here because nobody cares, right?
Right.
But, if you look at the, Jaguar's global sales as part of JLR, it's not small potatoes, but if you put it in context, Land Rovers are kind of the heavy hitter for them. I think they are carrying a lot of water in sales, although Jaguar, I bet, adds a lot to their margin. That's my guess. I think the biggest challenge for them at this point is really ensuring that the new EVs that they are going to put out are impressive enough to capture more market share at a higher price.
Right.
Not how long they take to get here. I think they'll make it. But the company has suggested that while they're making this strategic shift, they're also looking for an even more premium buyer. As part of this, they've said that they want to transition into a more exclusive luxury brand. Not my words, their words.
Yeah.
And I think it will, it's going to need to make a massive splash, because if you look at 2023 for them, just 5.68% of the vehicles the brand sold were EVs. And you can say that's because there was only one model, maybe, but that doesn't guarantee by any means if you dump a bunch more models, that's going to increase to the degree that you need it to, right? So we just don't know. And as CarScoop said in a follow-up on this, maybe a year off will actually make this rollout that much smoother and better. And that's possible too. Maybe if you have a lot less on your plate and you work towards this rebirth of sorts, I'm sure any automaker would like love to take take some irons out of the fire and just take a break and try to figure out the EV transition without all these other distractions. That would be amazing. But it's the dealers that you really feel for in the end, because they're the ones that are are going to have to scramble to figure this out, without going out there and slashing tires. How are you going to create more service opportunities for yourself? I'm not sure.
More nails on the roadway. No, and I want to get into that strategy where less is more that they seem to be going forward with. But Jeff, it is a tall order for dealers, asking them to focus on pre-owned inventory, after sales service revenue. I mean, maybe time to diversify a little bit.
Well, I doubt they're exclusively selling just Jaguars. They do still have Land Rover, which should be having some new vehicles coming out. And quite honestly, there's different sales numbers floating out there. From what I'm seeing, the Jaguar brand specifically is down 200% in market share. It is just dropped off a cliff in terms of what they're selling versus even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's
down.
Minimal.
Yeah.
It's way down. So I don't think that's going to be, the dealers are kind of well, that kind of sucks, but we weren't selling a whole lot of them anyway because Jaguar has a lot of problems. Now, from a service perspective, one of the issues that Jaguars do have is reliability issues. So there may be more servicing opportunities than you would want to admit to from both an engine perspective and an electrical perspective. So it's really interesting, to channel Jason Bateman's Pepper Brooks from that cinematic classic Dodgeball.
Yeah.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him.
Yeah.
Because Tada, who's the owner of Jaguar, I think is basically going, you know what? This brand is suffering. It's about ready to, I think in my notes I said, to meet the same demise as Old Yeller. Kind of. It may be about that time. So let's give it a shot.
I mean, a Jaguar is a rare animal, though. I don't think you can do the same without having some severe federal penalties.
Probably. Fair enough. I'm just saying it's becoming, so I think Tada is sort of saying, if things aren't going great here, maybe if we give them a year to clean all this up, they can come out with this EV that is finally going to give them a competitive advantage that they do not have right now in this model range.
Yeah.
They're not competing with BMW. They're not competing with Mercedes. They're just not. People are not enamored with that Jaguar name anymore for some of those issues that we mentioned before. So if they can really come out and blow everybody away with this EV, and they've got a year to do it now, This might be their final leg here.
Yep, just have Matthew McConaughey warm up that voice for the commercial when it comes out in a year. I'm assuming that's how they're going to launch it.
He's a Lincoln guy.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I'll have to find somebody else. All right.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. Just top of my head. Anyway, Jesse says hi. Hi, Jesse. How you doing? Thanks for joining us live. Jeff, you're never one to really pass up an opportunity for a sports metaphor, and this one was just for me they're just going in rebuild mode, right? Where they're just they're coming flat out, and they're just you know what?
I mean, other teams at least play the season.
Yeah, no.
They're just saying,
they're just
we're not even going to field a team.
Yeah, you know what? 2024, maybe some of 2025, we're hitting reset. We're going to, get back to basics. I mean, they're...
But in a rebuilding year, you sell stuff.
you still play.
Well, they're not selling so much. They're more they're DFAing everybody. Because according to Motor One, Jaguar is killing 6 cars: the XE, the XF sedan, the XF wagon, the F-Type, the E-Pace, and the I-Pace, all discontinued because, according to Jaguar CEO Adrian Mardell, they are barely making the company any money, generating, quote, close to zero profitability.
Sounds like a fun place to be.
Yeah. So again, rebuild mode. Hey, we've got too many high-priced stars out there, and we just gotta cut them all and rely on our farm system, just to get us through. And I guess the farm system is
Yeah, but you can't do that when you're the Yankees. I mean, the Jaguar is a premium brand. Yeah. So that approach doesn't work.
Every once in a while, the Yankees wind up in a tight spot, and they're just you know what? Burn it to the ground.
They still win 85 games.
That's a bad year for them. Now this new EV Grand Tourer is going to cost around $130,000. I mean, getting back to that premium brand. And JLR wants Jaguar to focus on, like you said, in a lower volume, higher profit cars, specifically so they can go after Bentley. I read that after the dust settles, JLR only wants Jaguar to sell 50,000 or fewer cars annually. And I guess if you have a $130,000 EV, I understand.
Yeah, I wonder how big that market is for like super premium luxury electric vehicles. I mean,
I guess they're hoping it's around 50,000.
But there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Tons.
So we'll see. We'll see if they come out of this rebuild, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's more of like a soccer comparison where like they're going to have to be like relegated.
So you're saying in 2 years, like Jaguar is going to come out of this just flying away?
No.
Oh, okay.
I am not that optimistic. I think with a brand like Jaguar, though, I think that they can get smaller, offer fewer premium cars. And if this is their new bar for success, I do think they can meet that.
They definitely know how to sell fewer than 50,000 vehicles.
But it also, they're going after Bentley, but Bentley, they have an EV strategy in place, but it's like over the next 10 years. They're still selling ICE cars. So,
It's Bentley.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's different.
But I mean, out of context, you could still say like, it's Jaguar. It's,
Okay.
I don't know, like Jaguar to me, other than Porsche, was like the first car that like struck me as a consumer, which is like, that is a cool, very expensive car that I probably shouldn't even get near. Just the first premium brand. All right, well, let's move on to our next most popular story. Before we do, Jesse says, I wish my company would take a year sabbatical. Oh, true. I guess that's one thing that they didn't really cover too much is what are they going to do?
What happens with the manufacturing workers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they going to go?
That is going to be the highest quality, low complaint, low reliability issue vehicle ever.
Yeah. Wow.
So they've got a lot of time.
They're
right.
going to upskill everybody.
There you go.
All right. Logistics company faces injunction after hiding workers from OSHA in a nearby restaurant. NBG Logistics Alliance and its alleged Mexican affiliate provide logistics support like warehouse management and customs assistance at its locations in San Diego and Calexico. On July 31st, the Labor Department slapped the company with a preliminary injunction and court order forbidding NBG from threatening or retaliating against its workers for interfering with an ongoing federal investigation. When Wage and Hour Division investigators showed up at NBG on April 30th of this year, the company stashed workers for hours at a local fast food restaurant until investigators left. The company then sent employees to work across the border at the company's Mexicali location, allegedly, and confiscated their work cell phones before firing them and deleting any proof of their employment. The injunction follows an investigation into alleged violations of the Fair Labor Standards Act. NBG Logistics allegedly paid workers at California warehouses in pesos through its Mexican affiliate. The workers would cross the border daily to work at NBG's California warehouses. The injunction should prevent NBG from retaliating against employees, preventing employees from cooperating, destroying evidence, or contacting employee family or friends. According to the lawsuit, NBG doesn't actually dispute many of the allegations, but does dispute that it's related to this alleged Mexican counterpart. Anna, so NBG's got to restore all data messages and programs deleted from computers and cell phones that contain any evidence, and they also have to provide a list of employees that have worked at the company since April 30th of 2021. Do you think any of that information still exists anywhere?
I actually do, because if your plan is to like stash a bunch of workers at a fast food restaurant when a federal agency comes in, then maybe you're not like the most organized, or I don't know, like it just
like they didn't delete the files, they just like set the computers on fire and they're like, that should do it.
Yeah, like I'm sure there's some enterprising IT recovery specialists that will be able to find this stuff. I hope,
It's in the
anyway.
cloud, David.
It's in the cloud.
It's all in the cloud.
Okay.
Everything is in the cloud, David. You don't even want to know what's in the
you
cloud. Forget it.
Still, it doesn't look like, I guess, a company that's willing to, and we looked it up, it's likely they stashed the employees at a Jack in the Box. That's like the closest restaurant to the facility anyways. But I mean, I don't know. it was odd to me, this part of the story in particular, where NBG was like, "Ah, okay, yeah, so maybe we did all that stuff. But man, we certainly don't have any affiliation with this other company, and we're certainly not paying them in pesos. Certainly not. How could you dare say so?"
That was the strangest part to me, that they were like, because, it's almost like if you're a global enterprise and you have another location in Mexico and maybe workers are going in between, like maybe you could try to explain it away in some way. But I mean, in the end, the scenario is so frustrating to read to me because I feel like in the case of illegal immigration, it's the immigrants that are often demonized in these discussions around the problem. And when in fact you see these U.S. companies who are taking advantage of people in such a way, like that was, just plain exploitation. That's just infuriating to see, because it tends to be those people that have to absorb the brunt of like the people's backlash about what's happening here. And
I mean, when they're forbidden from not just intimidating the workers or former employees, but also their friends and family, I feel like when the Labor Department has to come out and say that specifically, it shows just how bad things were there.
Yeah, for sure. And the article alludes to a few previous investigations that had taken place at other companies, not the same companies. But I read into that a little bit as well, and I found a press release about that bust, which took place just in June. It was not very long ago. And Min Park Chung, who's the Wage and Hour Division District Director in San Diego, in speaking of these prior investigations, said, quote, "Companies along the U.S. southern border that mistakenly believe they can exploit Mexican nationals by paying illegally low wages should take note of the outcome of these investigations." That was in June. Clearly, NBG didn't take note.
No.
But you just hope, I guess, as there's more of a crackdown, the more public it is, that you scare off some people from trying this stupid harebrained scheme that, obviously don't begrudge any of these workers from trying to make a living, but to pay them next to nothing and then threaten them and delete proof of their entire employment history and send them packing. It just, if that's the case, if that's what took place at the end of this, you kind of wonder too, what were the working conditions like in there? There was nothing to that in the report. Maybe they don't know, but my guess is not good.
Well, and going back at least 3 years, right? If they want records back until April 30th of 2021, maybe it was just the fact that, hey, we've been doing it this way for 3 years. We've never gotten in trouble. We've never gotten caught. No one's ever raised any issues. So maybe and this story you were talking about, this injunction is part of the ongoing investigation or effort to root out abusive labor practices in the customs warehouse industry specifically. So you talked about it, but the 3 previous investigations, the Department of Labor recovered $840,000 for 32 employees. Some of these people were being paid less than $3 an hour.
Yeah.
And but Jeff, hey, if you're paying workers the equivalent of $3 an hour over the course of 3 years, depending on the number of workers, like, I understand where if you're getting away with it, why you might not change things and not think you're ever going to get in trouble.
Well, it's really, it's detestable just on the surface of things, but once you start digging into the situation a little bit more, it's obvious that this was just somebody who did not care and just went rogue. And just almost in a sociopathic way of just not caring about anybody else other than what they were able to achieve. This is a company with RBG here that they're part of this Noguera Customs Agency, which has like a 35-year history in the customs marketplace, I guess you could say. A very rich tradition and things they've been involved with. They're attached to different non-profitable agencies and charities and stuff like that. So what happened here? And it got me thinking a little bit, well, maybe there was something dealing with a lack of workers or something like that. But looking at an article here is on Transport Topics on their website. It was by Don Lee and Samantha Masunga. And they looked at this Inland Empire part of California, which basically, if you're not familiar, it's south of LA, the entire width of that sort of that boot part of California, San Diego on to the east. And right now, they're in very difficult economic times in terms of there's a ton of unemployment. The average labor rate for warehouse workers in particular is like $5 to $6 less than the average income for any other hourly worker. So what this translates to is there's a workforce there that you would pay less. So it's very cost effective when you're looking at $21 an hour for warehouse workers. And still they go to these extremes to break the law and take advantage of these individuals by hustling them over the border like this. So it's just, there's nothing you could even point to try to play devil's advocate with this type of criminal activity. That's all it is. It's just somebody being selfish and manipulative.
Yeah, no, it comes down to greed. And it's just, as you're going through the lawsuit, it's like, whew, all bad. And then you get to the bottom of the lawsuit and they're like, oh, they agreed to most of that.
Yes, we did all that.
Yeah. Jesse says, forbidden hide and seek. Does anyone get that reference? I don't. Okay. All right. So. Oh, about hiding. Okay.
Definitely forbidden. Yeah.
Yes, definitely not a good look in terms of, I mean, if you want to seem innocent, don't hide workers in a restaurant for hours. I feel like that'd be a huge red flag for me.
Yeah, if you didn't do anything wrong, you don't need to do that.
Yeah. Actually, one of the commenters mentioned that perhaps they thought initially it was like an ICE raid, and so that's why they stashed the workers. So it'd be interesting to see whether or not that was the reason, or if, it was because of all the other tactics they had.
I give them no benefit of the doubt.
Well,
and even
that is irrelevant, right?
Yeah. I mean, still bad.
Yeah,
still bad. All right. Our most popular story this week. Thousands of Toyotas recalled over a sticker. Toyota recently recalled 33,000 vehicles, and the NHTSA has revealed some details surrounding the problem. It's a sticker, but an important one, according to regulators. The sticker posts the vehicle's load carrying capacities, and for many popular models, this information is wrong. It seems like a small issue, but the NHTSA believes the error means the vehicles don't conform with federal motor vehicle safety standards. Also, drivers could unknowingly overload their vehicles and increase the risk of a crash. A Toyota seller in Texas uncovered this issue, and the recall will hit nearly every model of vehicle Toyota sold in 2023 and 2024, including RAV4, Tacoma, and the Prius. The fix was an easy one. Toyota is going to send you a new sticker. And if it's too much trouble, you can bring it into the dealership and they'll put it on for you. It's like kind of a father-son, parent-child relationship there. I can't get it off. Anna, this one might not have Toyota and hot water, but it's still a sticky situation.
Oh, come on. David.
I can't take full blame for that one, but I like it.
All right.
Anna, could you help us dive into this sticky situation?
It's a sticker. That's why it's sticky. Yeah,
I get it.
So like I got an adhesive backing.
It took a minute.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, this was definitely an interesting story. And for God's sakes, if you get the sticker in the mail, just put it on yourself. Please don't go to the dealership.
What do I do? Like,
call me if you need
me
to walk you through it on the phone. I will, but
my oil change tomorrow is going to wind up being delayed by 2.5 hours because they're gonna be like, we just have a flood of people with sticker problems.
They don't
slapping these things on all week.
We got to take off the old one. We got to put on the new one. It sounds, it sounds sillier than it is, this whole thing, I think. And of course, it matters whether a buyer knows what their carrying capacity is. It's an easy way to blow out your transmission or accelerate wear on a lot of components. As they said in the article, it's also a risk in a crash. If you have more weight on your vehicle, it takes longer to stop. If you don't know that, it will... it could cause an accident. You could be in a world of trouble and Toyota could get sued for that. A recall is really the best way to address that, even if the situation seems silly in that the remedy is a sticker. But Luckily for Toyota, the fix is cheap because recalls certainly do add a lot of costs to the business model of an automaker. For example, Forbes famously pointed to a study that says in 2017, auto recall costs exceeded $20 billion annually. Since then, recall costs have increased due to inflation, of course, raw material issues, labor. Therefore, this is an issue that's getting worse for automakers. Toyota is certainly not taking this lightly. And when you consider that this is a software glitch, you can also see what feels like another layer missing, in my opinion, and that is that there might need to be another quality control function between anything that gets produced, anything, a sticker even, and it going on the vehicle,
Yeah.
because it happens to every automaker. Even Porsche earlier this year took some ribbing because it was discovered that the dashboard's digital display misspelled the word brake, as in brake pads.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Right, I know. Not a difficult fix, but no auto company wants the publicity of an issue that suggests that they're sloppy or careless or anything like that. And that stuff easily goes viral, and people make a big joke about it, and then all of a sudden you have this
I will definitely.
Yeah. People call it a sticky situation when it's a very serious auto recall.
Just trying to peel back the facts here. And
Yeah, just let's get.
That's
No,
right.
nothing.
No,
No?
yeah,
Okay.
no. We're trying to get all the goo gone here, Jeff.
Okay.
Anna.
And so in the end, obviously, yes, it felt like, I think we selected the story because it was like kind of funny a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's a sticker, man. Like why is this happening? But again, it points to, just how important it is to check every single little thing, whether it's a adhesive sticker with a weight value on it. Like this is 33,000 of these that they have to figure out, and all the press that comes along with it that nobody wants.
Well, I mean, we see labeling issues, particularly in the food manufacturing industry, plague a lot of food manufacturers. Like, Jeff, is part of this that people become so reliant on like label making, sticker generating software that they just feel like, hey, if it came out of the computer, it's got to be right.
Probably. I mean, yeah, it's a fair assumption. I think to me, go back to one of my other favorite sayings here, this is a blocking and tackling thing. And when you can't get something as simple as this, I'm assuming this is that sticker that's kind of like on the inside of the door, which I've looked at quite a bit. When you look at tire pressure, wheel size, paint color, all of that kind of data, that is important to a vehicle owner. So messing up something there, I'm glad NHTSA kind of jumped on this and made it a bigger deal. I think the other thing, in the long run, quite honestly, Toyota should even be happy. Because how many Boeing stories have we done in the past 6 months?
Well,
and I guarantee you,
one a week about
exactly.
So many.
And I'm sure that the culture and everything else that permeated throughout that organization and led to all the quality issues they're having now, it started with something little, and it wasn't addressed and it wasn't taken care of, and people just got used to ignoring that. Focusing in on all of these little things is something as simple as putting the right number on a sticker. That's important. And reinforcing that and being held accountable for that is going to make Toyota better as well. So I think maybe it is a little ridiculous, but not for what it could lead to.
Well, I mean, and maybe it was just nice for Toyota to have to be like, deal with a sticker recall rather than copping to like company-wide emissions cheating.
Yeah, or airbag shrapnel or... Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they've had some way worse recalls just this year alone, like transmission stuff, welding problems, like, this is a sticker.
Yeah, this the engineer comes to the boss's office and they're just like, what now?
I know.
Like, whoa. We're just going to print about 30,000 stickers.
It's just going to cost us
Yeah.
like a stamp and some paper.
I know. People are going to put them on themselves, we think.
Yeah. So at first when I read this story, I thought like, oh man, what if this is more calculated? What if like the company knowingly put the incorrect info on there to like meet federal regulations? And they gambled on nobody looking at it.
This is what you first thought?
I first thought like maybe it was more nefarious, but I was kind of curious about like, so the recall only affects vehicles sold through this distributor, Gulf States Toyota, and spans the 22 models. Did the recall just originate with Gulf States Toyota? Because this Texas-based Toyota distributor distributes Toyota accessories. And so is it that after they added these accessories to the car, it added weight and then that impacted load capacity?
I don't believe so. My understanding was that Gulf States Toyota it was responsible for applying the stickers, and they discovered it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know why,
Yeah.
but dealerships do that probably as well. So
Well, again, that person should be applauded, and
Yeah.
kinda, I mean, Toyota should appreciate their attention to detail.
And I can't let it go. Like, so you read these stickers? I could tell you
I've looked
there's.
at 'em.
I know there's a sticker there. I have certainly never looked at it.
No, I had to do some touch up on a vehicle, so I wanted the right paint color. I've also looked at it for like when you're buying tires, make sure you get the right wheel size and all that.
Man,
Guys.
you ever look at this thing?
I would kill for a freaking sticker, man. My vehicle, like, touch screen interface is so complicated, and I'm always like, okay, like just pressing like 1,000 buttons trying to figure
and then
out
your
like
daughter comes up, she's like, "Mom, it's right there."
Aren't you just supposed to like ask the car and then it tells it back to you?
you can ask the car some things, but the car's pretty dumb, to be honest. They don't, it doesn't know like a lot about it. It can map you somewhere, but that's about
Right?
it. Yeah.
Just like I'm just asking your paint color. You don't even know what color you are.
Yeah, like I could say, turn the heat up, and it would do that. But if I need to find my weight, like cargo capacity weight, yeah, I would be in there for like an hour, just like, nope, that's not it. Nope,
David,
no.
you should be happy. It's not self-aware.
Yeah, well, I mean, not yet. I mean, eventually you're going to be like adding bags of sand or something in there when you finally give in and like build a sandbox for the kids.
Yeah.
And then that like last bag, it's going to be like, I'm overweight.
Oh, my
I'm
kids.
not going. I won't even go.
My kids think that the car voice assistant is the same as like Alexa, so they're
Oh.
always like, "What killed the dinosaurs?" Like, you guys, she doesn't know any of that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you get like,
It was a great day when
"Are
the
mermaids
kids,
real?"
yeah, the kids realized like you could ask Alexa to tell a joke, and it was a great first day, and it's been a miserable day ever since. It's like also like Alexa doesn't have a lot of jokes in its bag.
You know what Alexa does have a lot of? Fart songs. Don't ask me how I know that.
Nope, I know
okay.
those songs. Sorry, it's a weird life we're in right now. All right, well, let's transition to another word from our new sponsor, Better Engineering. Looking for the ultimate industrial washing system for your facility? Better Engineering delivers state-of-the-art industrial part washers tailored for manufacturing, food, and pharmaceutical processing. We integrate automation and robotics to eliminate hand washing, increasing throughput and water saving while using eco-friendly chemistry. Whether you need custom or stock cleaning systems, we've got you covered. Built to last, American quality stainless steel systems. Better Engineering. Engineering cleaning solutions for a better tomorrow. Visit betterengineering.com to revolutionize your cleaning process today.
Oh God.
Yep.
So loud.
I know. I'm sorry. I was going to apologize beforehand, but then I would have ruined it.
We are going to get a noise complaint from our
Not from our
Producers
neighbors.
are going to get
neighboring
a noise complaint.
office.
Sorry if that came out a little hot there, Alex.
You're going to get a disorderly conduct ticket.
I was thinking about it. All right. Well, let's move on to, in case you missed it after that incredible read. Anna, what do you have for us for In Case You Missed It this week? You know, the story is maybe not as popular on the website, but could have a big impact on the industry going forward.
Yeah, so I picked a story. The title was Indians Want Their Money Back for Undelivered Teslas, because I saw that headline and I was like, what?
Yeah. Like
happened here?
how long could they have possibly been waiting?
How long could you have waited for a Tesla? So here's the quick rundown. I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes on this. So in April of 2016, Elon Musk invited some Indians to pre-order the upcoming Tesla Model 3. A man named Vishal Gandal was one of the first to sign up. He paid a $1,000 deposit for a car that never arrived.
Yet. Has not yet.
Well, so in the 8 years since
That's
Tesla's...
never.
True. He's since gotten his money back. But in the 8 years since Tesla's initial promise to sell cars in India, other automakers have launched their own EVs, but Tesla has failed to follow through, apparently because of concerns that taxes would make the car too expensive in India, combined with the difficulties of building an Indian factory. So Gandal bought an electric SUV made by Audi eventually. He finally got his $1,000 back in January of 2023. And get this, with the help of a friend who helped him track down a Tesla sales manager in India. Come on,
Yeah.
why? So, basically the article goes on to say that to keep a leading position among global automakers, Tesla needs new, more affordable cars for emerging markets like India, but the only way to do that is to build a factory there. Unfortunately, in the time it has taken between when Tesla first started trying to woo buyers and now, other players have swooped in with both cheap and luxury EVs, wiping out Tesla's first mover advantage in a place like India. So the whole thing was like, it kind of like blew me away in its ineptitude in a way. I know it's more complicated than that, but what a waste of a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And we've seen it again and again in other ways, like how Tesla has spent the last couple years where competition is coming hard and fast, and they've only put out one new product, and it's this very niche product, the Cybertruck, that only works in the U.S. market, nowhere else. And then price cuts, that's their other thing. And that's sunk their margins. That's made things harder for them to operate. It's almost as if they aren't being run effectively.
Yeah, almost like it's like a top-down problem.
So Bloomberg once characterized Tesla's deposit strategy as treating the money like interest-free loans, right? Taking deposits for vehicles that were not even currently being produced, features that it hadn't fully developed. Kind of a shoot first and ask questions later strategy. We've come to expect that from Elon Musk. Like we're seeing here, let's sell cars in India. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, we can't. So I don't know. To me, it was another reason not to take what's happening at Tesla and use it as a bellwether for what the overall EV market. I think people are starting to understand that Tesla has its own unique set of problems that are specific to its business model and its market strategy and the products that it's producing. And, there's a lot of EV companies that are doing fine. There's a lot of automakers that are selling a lot of EVs. I know that it's a slow process to scale that up, but I don't know.
I apologize for laughing there for a second. Alex, who said that it was fine when I shouted today, put a screenshot of the levels up on the screen, and it turns out that maybe that was a little too hot. I apologize. I apologize to everyone, especially the ones with the headsets on. Anna, on the story, it was crazy to me how no one really knows what's happening still, right? They talked to Indian officials, and he basically said yeah, we had our guy at Tesla that we talked to, he got fired, and we really don't know what the plan is now. Yeah,
it's interesting too because India changed their tariff rules on foreign vehicles just this year, in spring, to reduce those tariffs down to 15%. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that Tesla could start selling vehicles in India, but again, they're so late to the game now that they're competing against BYD, which is in China, and much lower prices, and it's the average price of a vehicle in India sells for $14,000.
Yeah.
So even if you're wooing a luxury buyer, you don't do that by taking $1,000 deposit and then 7 years later telling them, sorry, we can't. They don't have any dealerships there. It's just there's so much to do that's not been done, and just it seems like no one's trying.
Jeff, it's crazy that Tesla would overpromise and underdeliver, and unfortunately, this one can't be fixed with a software update.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a crazy basic thing. When somebody gives you money for something and you can't provide the product or service they paid for, you give them their money back.
Yeah.
That shouldn't take somebody hunting down a dealer, however far away from them. That should just be an automatic thing where the light bulb goes on somewhere within the Musk fiefdom that says, hey, you remember all those folks in India that gave us money and we can never get them a car? We should probably give them their money back.
Yeah, and why were they taking the money to begin with if they had they hadn't even worked out a cost calculation of to be later be actually maybe we can't sell at competitive prices.
They're going to do them one better. Not only we won't give you $1,000 back, but we're going to give you 2,000 Tesla bucks. Mm-hmm. And you're free to spend it however you'd like.
No expiration date.
No expiration date.
Well, and that's the thing now, if Tesla does ever figure it out and actually does want to go to India, there's this story that's going to follow them forever. So it's
a weird story.
I'm going to need to see the vehicle here on my road.
I need to see the plant you're making the vehicle at so I know that it can actually be here.
All right. In case you missed it this week, was about the company Steel investing $60 million to improve battery manufacturing in Virginia. So most of Steel products sold in the United States are made in Virginia Beach. Switching to battery-powered tools is a leading trend in the outdoor power equipment industry and one of the fastest growing market segments for Steel. I believe everyone knows Steel, orange, white, and black, power tool, Steel. Typically the one that breaks down last, Steel. To support the company's battery-powered expansion, Steel is investing more than $60 million in new battery manufacturing. I picked this story because a lot of times when we think of the EV transition, we always focus on automotive. And really, if we're going to make a huge impact on trying to right the dramatic climate shift, it's going to be well beyond. Just the automotive industry. So Steel hopes to increase the share of sales from battery-powered products to at least 35% by 2027, with the target of being 80% of sales being battery-operated products by 2035. That's an incredible transition. As part of this effort, the company recently converted an 84,000 square foot warehouse last year into battery tool manufacturing. Steel makes more than 80 battery-operated tools for consumers and professionals. According to the company, about 25% of Steel products sold are battery-operated. The company expects 30 new products to hit the market over the next 2 years alone and see, obviously, a significant increase in battery-operated tools. In 2023, battery unit production was just 16% of all units produced at Steel. 5 years ago, the company just assembled one battery-powered model in the United States. It was a battery-powered blower. So, they don't have a lot of units that are battery-powered yet when you look at the big picture, but over the last 5 years, it's increased exponentially. Steel's battery production started as a single assembly line with fewer than 10 employees, but now it has more than 100 employees responsible for battery products and battery pack manufacturing in Virginia. When the company was founded in 1974, the Steel campus was a single 20,000 square foot rented warehouse. The company now has 1.5 million square feet of manufacturing and administrative space on over 150 acres in Virginia. There are a couple of reasons I chose the story. I thought it was a great story about a company that has built slowly and evolved over the last 50 years in America. And like I said before, I wanted to throw a little bit more attention on how it's not just cars that are going to be battery operated. It's going to be everything. Mm-hmm. Anna, I don't know if you had a chance to check out this story, but what did you think about Steel investing in battery manufacturing?
Yeah, I thought this was a great story, and I agree with you. Batteries people are increasingly moving away to electrification of whatever they can. And so it was an interesting story. And also, I think speaks to the relative benefit of always keeping your nose to the grindstone when it comes to product development, because, so many companies, I think they nail it and then they kind of just keep making those products. But if you're always chasing that next technology, then maybe whenever you need to pivot, it can be quick,
Yeah.
And it seems like they are scaling this pretty quickly in terms of, like you said, just 5 years ago, having one assembled battery powered model in the US, and now look how much progress that they have made there. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, and when I think Steel, Jeff, I always think chainsaws first, right? A Steel chainsaw. And so my initial reaction is always they can make everything else battery powered, but not a chainsaw. But after having used a battery powered chainsaw, that thing is smooth. It is powerful. And really, other than changing the battery pack, the maintenance, and other maintenance, making sure that it's, oiled and everything. But it is an overall better experience using a battery powered chainsaw than a gas powered one.
I'm glad that you had that experience, because in a lot of my experiences in going from something not battery powered to something battery powered, it was not that great.
Yeah.
So Steel is a more premium brand. So I think if somebody can really make it work, I do have confidence in them doing so. I think some of these projections are pretty pretty aggressive.
Optimistic.
Very aggressive. And
Ambitious.
that's fine. Take your shot.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think what you could also see is maybe a weird rush on some of these gas-powered and electric options if they are going to be phased out because they last. I mean, that's the other thing. When you buy a better product, it lasts longer. So I want to be optimistic about this, especially when it comes to the gas-powered stuff. I mean, we ran that article about the gas-powered blowers actually being phased out, or they were being regulated out, I should say. Like illegal in a lot of states. Got an electric blower, it looks great. If they can make that with a battery pack, so don't have to deal with extension cords, awesome. But it's also got to deliver.
Yeah.
So the proof is in the pudding there. So as long as when they try to transition all of these things, it delivers from a performance perspective, that's going to be huge, because if it doesn't and you have a job to get done and you need to get it done and it didn't work the first time with the battery, going back to it is going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
The other thing, from a business perspective, this makes a ton of sense. Because you know what doesn't wear out? Steel saws and power tools. You know what is always going to wear out? Batteries.
Batteries, yeah.
So they've sort of got a built-in business model here as well. So behind them 100%, we'll see if they can do it.
Well, I'll agree with you in terms of other battery-powered appliances from different brands failing to meet expectations. You know, I do have a battery-powered leaf blower, and the first time I used it, I'm like, this is incredible. And then I didn't even make it all the way down my sidewalk, and I'm like, I gotta charge this already? I mean, so, and then, you know, I wound up buying like a much larger battery that wasn't manufactured by that brand, just to give me a little bit more juice. I do think one part of this that's going to be crucial is that, so on the automotive side, when it comes to taking care of the battery, you know, it's such a high ticket item that like automotive manufacturers are kind of designing out the human error, right? So you can't overcharge it, you can't kill the battery. They need to do a better job of doing that with these products as well. Because when it comes to charging those batteries, if you don't read that manual like perfectly, or if you don't adhere to their standards, like you kill those batteries fast. And there's also like the kind of like weird part of it where like the label says like, hey, FYI, I'm a small bomb, so don't keep in my house, you know, like.
There's also that.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a little anxiety.
But, you know, you shouldn't keep anything that hot either.
Yeah.
That's just sort of a general.
Oh, sure.
No.
Yeah.
Things that can get hot, make sure they can cool down.
Agreed.
A gas can.
And don't
a small
keep them near
bomb
gas.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I gotta like really reorganize
Do I
my
need to write you
shed.
out some 10 don'ts?
No.
Make
just
him a sticker.
Ooh,
He needs a new sticker.
I like it.
the new shed sticker. Hold on, I got Jeff's blocking and tackling top 10 here. Just like apparently I shouldn't have these batteries right on top of the gas can.
They should be. They're plugged in right on top of the gas can. That would be great.
Yeah, just I think it gets too hot in here.
Yeah, don't do that. And it shouldn't be next to the open cans of paint either.
Oh well, luckily I just
See how much
dumped
you're
those in the
learning?
ground. No, Jeff, what is your in case you missed it this week?
So I picked a story, Mars to buy Cheez-It owner Kellanova for nearly $30 billion. This one caught my attention for a number of reasons. Cheez-Its being one of the few food products in our home that everybody loves.
Yeah.
Like, love Cheez-Its. The other thing being the price tag, $30 billion
So
for
great.
a food company. Especially interesting when you look at the things that they're acquiring here. And we'll go through the products in a little bit. These aren't health foods. This
Yeah.
is not organically grown, organically sourced type of stuff that's been sort of the trend in terms of acquisitions for food companies right now, food and beverage. So anyway, M&M's maker Mars is buying Kellanova, the maker of Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts, another household favorite, for nearly $30 billion. The deal, once you throw in the debt, is actually going to be almost $36 billion, expanding the number of household name brands under one roof. Kellanova was created last year when Kellogg split into two companies. Kellanova sells many of the former company's most profitable brands, including Pringles, love those, Eggos, Townhouse, Morningstar Farms, and Rice Krispie Treats. It had sales of more than $13 billion last year, has approximately 23,000 employees. This is the biggest acquisition since J.M. Smucker bought Hostess for $5.5 billion last year. So huge number, huge brand names involved. And whenever I see these types of acquisitions that are this massive, the things that come to my mind right away are the employees.
Yeah.
What's going to happen here in terms of there's got to be some overlap, even if it's just in the front office, when you look at an acquisition of this size.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen there in terms of potential layoffs? what's so interesting with food companies, and we've hammered on this a lot of times, is the margins are so tight and so tough. And I'm sure both of these companies use a lot of contract manufacturing and contract packaging outfits. What happens to a lot of those places? Does a lot of that still stay in place? Do they take advantage of some of those commonalities to eliminate some of that? So the fallout from this stuff, yeah, you made a $30 billion acquisition in the marketplace, which gets everybody humming, but what's the fallout as well as the benefit?
Yeah.
The other thing I could see, this one getting hung up a little bit, because this could give Kellanova something like a 25% share of snack brands.
Yeah.
That starts leading into concerns about monopolies, and do they have too big of a grasp on the market?
Well, they can't shrinkflate it anymore. They can't offer one Cheez-It per box. You know what? Like, there's got to be some sort of
There's
stuff.
a lot of air in that bag inside the box.
I bought this box of Pop-Tarts. There's one tart. One tart.
Not even tart.
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, how much of, what was it, $13 billion last year? I wonder how much of that was due to shrinkflation.
Fair enough. I mean, the other thing, too, that had a lot of industry analysts kind of going, man, they went after, again, we mentioned this in the beginning, a company that has nothing to do with health foods or organically sourced or anything like that. These are traditional, bad for you, great to eat type of products. So
I mean,
Cheez-Its are bad for you.
I mean, Pringles. Pringles aren't going anywhere.
When you eat them like I do, they're not good for you.
Yeah, I think like the serving size, you're fine on a Pringle. It's when you get like that hand stuck at the bottom of that canister after one sitting, and you're like,
When you do the stack.
yeah. Also, favorite thing with Pop-Tarts, you get like the chocolate Pop-Tarts, toast them on ice cream, best ever.
See, I just like the fruit ones, no toaster, just like the blueberry, strawberry. I like those.
Okay. Oh, not toasted?
I don't toast them.
Okay. Okay. Bold. Anna, your thoughts on the Pop-Tart having a new daddy? New Pop-Tart daddy.
I'm
Cheez-It family.
just gonna ignore that.
Okay, let's go.
So Kellogg Company now is just selling cereal. Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because that was not their most active, profitable.
It's been going a little bit down
Yeah.
lately too.
So was it like COVID was the rebirth of like cereal, and now everything's kind of coming back to normal?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, I mean, people were eating more at home. Now they're back on the go. You can't bring a bowl with you. You know, they try to make that cereal that's like just add water. Have you tried that?
No. I mean, we need like cereal shooters. Like, I mean, they're putting everything else in a tube.
My husband bought it by accident and brought it camping.
Wait, this is a real thing?
Yeah, it's got like powdered milk in it, and you just add water, and then you mix it up, and it's supposed to make.
So is it like in a bowl already?
So is
yeah,
it
it's like in a
Easy
bowl
Mac?
with like a peel back.
Not good?
No, I mean I didn't try it, but my kids were like, "What? What is this?" Like it was, and I'm like, "I don't know. I'm so sorry."
Like end of days Fruit Loops?
Yeah,
Did you guys all gang up on poor dad?
yeah,
Not cool.
I know. I was like, "Would you pull this out of your bunker? Where'd you get this?"
Now he's just like stuck on a case of these, like ready to eat, like Apple Jacks. And he's like, I'm going to be eating these until next year.
Look how good they are. I love them so much.
Are we doomsday prepping? I thought we were camping. Interesting story for sure. The $30 billion price tag blew my mind.
Yeah.
That like when I saw the headline, I was like, what? But you look at their portfolio and the popularity of all these brands. I'm sure they're going to do fine there. But definitely crazy to see this long-standing company kind of break apart, and then really now this division is gone, and Kellogg is back to doing their thing with Raisin Bran, I guess.
Yeah, and what Mars has now become. I mean, that's one of those. It's sort of becoming an iconic American company. I mean, where they came from, over 100 years old now. I mean, pretty cool.
Well, and there's something to be said about like these are legacy brands that have like stood the test of time. And you could argue that while it has been, quite popular to buy like nutritional snacks and trying to pivot to a new market, like that still could be viewed as a fad, it's still relatively new. All right. Well, let's move on to our final thoughts before we get out of here for the week. Anna, what's your final thought?
I thought that this maybe would be like a positive anecdote, but because we're always talking about how like fragile our bodies are getting and how
Oh no.
constantly getting injured. fell on my bike the other day. I was like taking a bike ride with my daughter, and I like fell off my bike, and nothing happened. Like I didn't get hurt at all.
That's
Did
great.
she laugh at you?
Well, no, she was like, "Are you okay?" She was like scared, and I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, like I had a helmet on, of course, but like, I did not get a bruise. I didn't get a scrape. I like just
You're
like
just fine.
just took a digger on the bike, and nothing happened. So I'm feeling like invincible right now. I just want you to know that like I still do get injured while I am sleeping, but
But you could take a bike accident.
I can. Yeah.
So
Felt good.
Was it the sudden stop in front of you? Was it that, or was it the like sudden stop mixed with the bike tire going off the sidewalk? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter, who is 9, does sudden stop constantly in front of me, which, anyway, that's its own thing. But no, it was a curb that was like kind of overgrown with like weeds,
Oh,
and
okay.
so I like thought the curb had ended, but it was still a curb over
Oh,
here.
okay.
So I like just turned into the curb, but again, not any worse for the wear.
No,
So, and I was just like, for sure, thinking like,
yeah, just
it was awesome.
yeah, like you put on the like strong mask right away. Like there's nothing worse than like when you have an accident or fall down in front of your kid and they look at you like, "Is my life over?"
I know she was so scared, and I'm like, no, proceed. Like, we're good.
Yeah,
Good to go.
So little man's learning. He's actually loving learning how to ride a bike right now, which is great. But we're learning brakes, and so I forgot that whole like I was still in the just jog alongside him phase, and I was just like, no, he's really getting the hang of it, really getting the hang of it. So I brought my bike and was going behind him, and he's just really testing those
Jamming on those brakes.
jamming on the brakes. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave my bike here in the neighbor's yard, and we will retrieve it later. My final thought this week was that I believe it was the last episode I was talking about the Nerf war. Was that the last
Yeah.
one? And we did go to the Nerf war. I will say the most fun part of the Nerf war was that was going to the store, seeing the entire aisle of Nerf wares. Way different war.
Did you bring a knife to a Nerf
Yeah, I
war?
brought a Nerf knife. Ha! Actually, maybe that would have been better. But the greatest part of it was the excitement in both my eyes and my wife's eyes when it was just like we walked into that aisle and it's like everyone can pick one. And that was a really fun experience. But when it came to the realities of a Nerf war, I didn't really take a lot of things into account, like how is my son going to respond to sudden projectiles coming from every direction?
Yeah.
And really, the biggest one was he ran into, and I couldn't have been the first time, but he ran into a kid that was just like, who did something to him, and then he went to do it back, and he said, "No, you can't do that," and it just flustered him so much that the entire experience was over, and it was just like,
Oh,
all right, we're done. Like, yeah, this kid shot him, so he went to shoot him. He's like, "Whoa, you can't shoot me!" And he was just like, that level of unfairness just unraveled.
Oh, yeah, it crushed him. Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, we saved on Nerf darts because I was only able to unload like 20 of the 76 dart chamber, and man, those just weren't coming back. But it was a fun experience, but brief. And when it does, it used to be Nerf or nothing. Well, now it is Nerf and everything else because we bought like 4 different Nerf guns and they wound up all being different brands. One thing I will say that I don't know why it exists, but all of the projectiles are interchangeable, and that's just huge. Like I was so used, as soon as I realized that they weren't all Nerf, I'm like, oh my goodness, none of these are going to fit each other, but they're all interchangeable.
Oh, that's nice.
Really nice.
All the manufacturers got together and they're like, you know what? Let's do this for America.
Let's do this one thing. I will also say, like,
for America.
one of them was battery powered and a little bit more zip on that dart.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah, like, I shot my wife initially because, of course, like, as soon as you have like a Nerf gun, it's just like, well, I'm going to try it. She said it hurt. I'm like, there's no way. And then she shot me. I'm like, ooh, bit of a pinch.
So that is the way times have changed because there's no way any of our fathers, if they would have been with us in that moment, they would have said, whatever, shoot them.
Yeah.
Definitely a shift in our cultural approach to
Wait,
things.
what? Oh, like in terms of...
Yeah, when the other kid's like, you can't shoot me, my dad would have been like, whatever, shoot him.
No, that's what I said. I was just like, no, he's just doing that to like trick
Yeah.
you so you don't shoot him. And it worked. I'm like, let's go shoot him. And I'm just like, I mean, it's one of those weird parenting moments where you're like, let's go and shoot him together.
Yeah.
Like, and he's just like, no. And the other was like, they make these tiny little Nerf guns that only hold one dart at a time, and they hold just a little for your like in your boot or something.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. And I mean, but now we got the Nerf fever. No other toys exist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
They're good cat toys too.
Really?
Oh yeah, cats love those darts.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
There's something to do tonight.
They may not like getting shot, but
No.
they get used to it.
That was we're working on the animals have feelings too. Please stop shooting the dog. Yeah, it's hard. What's your final thought this week, Jeff?
Nothing too crazy, but I was listening to a different podcast, and the topic came up of like the go-to grilling lunch or whatever if you're grilling out.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that a brat must be kind of a more regional thing than I realized.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
See, that's what I was going to ask. Like, I thought that was still a universal throw a brat on the grill type thing, but is that just like a Midwestern thing? Because the answers were all like, one guy said a pork chop, and another guy was just like a hamburger. I just want a hamburger. That's what we put on the grill. I'm like, well, that's fine. But
The go-to is definitely the brat because it's like the slam dunk. It's the hardest to mess up. But it is very regional. So we have an uncle that lives in Arizona. We send him a case of brats a year because he can't buy them down there.
my brother has said the same thing. Like, they sell them, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that... Are they just throwing sausage, like big hot dogs on there, or what?
Like when I had time to kill when I went to North Dakota, and I wanted to almost like buy the tiny little Weber grill and like buy some of their brats because I wanted to see with a regional flair. Just seemed like a little much. But so is the brat your go-to?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But what I have learned is fish on the grill, fantastic.
On the foil though.
Put it on the foil. Yeah, just keep it, kind of tent it.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be hard either.
Tough to beat.
Yeah, no, like a little Lowry's and onions and salmon is fantastic. Anna, what's your go-to grill? Like, do you do, like, is your go-to like the Impossible brat?
I like Beyond Burgers the most, I think. But I will do like any of that meatless, like plant-based stuff. Like the variety. Chris will just buy me random stuff here and there to try, and I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah. I will say that I do prefer an Impossible brat on a grill because it adds that like smoky flavor to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, Jeff, like
I want to know what what's the map look like? Where is the brat influence end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like
That's a good question.
I'm gonna say like Ohio, and either Minnesota. Minnesota, maybe
Really?
the Dakotas. Yeah.
Nothing west of Minnesota?
No, well, I mean, I saw them in North Dakota, but I didn't. It was like,
Okay.
But that was like I saw them in North Dakota, which was 10 minutes from the Minnesota border. So
Because I feel like once any of these people have had a brat, they were just going to never put a hot dog on their grill again.
I just bought like Szechuan brats from this like little meat joint down in Lake Geneva. It was just
What are brats anyway? I mean, I grew up here. I've had them, but what's in them? I don't know.
Sausage,
Yeah.
just ground up, put into a casing.
delectable pork sausage seasonings. Very lean, very lean.
Yeah, nice
It's a very lean meat.
nice and light.
It's real light, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, when we grill out, my kid's favorite thing is ketchup sandwiches. So I buy a 6-pack of buns, and like 4 of the buns are gone because they make them with ketchup sandwiches with them. So I tried to eat a brat in a tortilla, and did not realize how much of that grease is absorbed in the bun.
Oh,
So not good for you.
yeah. Yep.
Anyway, sorry. Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at David, Jeff, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, and subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join Jesse, Josiah, and everyone else that joins us every Thursday live. Thank you again. It's always good to see you. All right, for Jeff Franke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.